Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this online course delivered by Equate Scotland. We're delighted to be delivering this course in partnership with Skills Development Scotland. The course will cover different aspects of the business and moral case for embedding ED&I measures in practice, the common pitfalls within recruitment processes, and how those pitfalls can be addressed through different inclusive measures, and what are the other measures to consider to embed inclusive practices within the organization. Before we dive in, I would like to highlight that even though the focus of this course is on inclusive recruitment practices for small, medium enterprises, we will also cover other areas that are critical to enhance our understanding of the context in which the organization is recruiting. We will approach this topic from an equality, diversity, and inclusion perspective, and therefore will explain some of the key terminology and concepts that businesses need to be aware of. This course is split into three main areas. In part one, we covered why is it important to consider the key drivers, equality, diversity, and inclusion within businesses. In this video, we'll be looking at what are inclusive recruitment practices. And part three will be about how does equality, diversity, and inclusion go beyond recruitment. In this video, we will focus on the impact of unconscious bias on recruitment, writing an inclusive and attractive job description, knowing where to advertise your job adverts, best practices when shortlisting and interviewing candidates. So these are the 8 stages of recruitment. The first is the planning the recruitment process. We're planning the recruitment process internally, what the role is, why you need this role, how this role informs the wider business strategy. And this is a key area. If the requirement and role is not clear internally, it will not be clear to external applicants, and it'll make step 2 more challenging. Step 2 is about creating the job description, and this is also a critical component as it will influence who wants to apply. Step 3 is about advertising the vacancy. There are several options available, whether you want to go through traditional recruitment platforms, social media, diversity job boards, recruiters, university or professional networks, etc. Step 4 is screening candidates and doing so objectively and fairly. Step 5 is interviewing candidates. And step 6 is making the job offer. 7 is providing feedback to unsuccessful candidates. And 8 is the onboarding of successful candidates. In this course, we'll focus on the stages highlighted in green, as this is where unconscious bias can influence the decision-making process. There are also some quick wins for SMEs in the stages we've identified, and most of these stages don't necessarily require additional resources. So unconscious bias. Bias is an inclination, predisposition, or prejudice towards or against something. What is unconscious bias? It is a bias that happens automatically and is triggered by our brains making quick judgments and assessments of people and situations influenced by background, cultural environment, and personal experiences. It is not innate and is a learned behavior. Therefore, we can learn alternatives and create different automatic responses. There's substantial research done on how unconscious bias can impact recruitment and recruitment decisions. This is an example of research done by Yale. It's called the Jennifer and John research. Basically, the research involved engaging with 127 academic research scientists, where applications for a student laboratory manager post was sent out to 127 academic research scientists, and all the applications were identical, but half of the candidates were called John and half were called Jennifer. And the researchers were asked to assess the applicants on 4 criteria: competence, hireability, whether they would like to mentor them to bring them on in a professional environment, and finally, salary. As you can see from the slide, there was a significant difference between the male and female candidates for the first 3 criteria. When we looked at the gender of the Academics, there was no difference in the results between the gender of the academics conducting the assessment. So both male and female research scientists saw the male candidate as a better fit for the role in terms of competence, hireability, mentoring, and even suggested he should start at a higher salary, 12% higher than the female candidate, despite being trained to be objective and go where the evidence leads us. So, what's happening here? One of two things could be going on. Consciously biased towards the male candidate and deliberately choose the male candidate because they wanted a man, or unconsciously participants were associating male candidates in being a better qualified scientist so that they were biased, but they were unaware of what they were doing. So think about how influences in your infancy, toys, images, TV, stereotypes being influenced over social media have shaped your perceptions on gender. This is one of the most significant pieces of research to demonstrate that unconscious bias exists in relation to gender. And there's also a lot of research with regards to unconscious bias in other protected characteristics, and also with regards to class, disability, religion, and region and care responsibilities. We won't be exploring these today due to time, but similar outcomes can be found across the board. So, how does unconscious bias manifest when job hunting? Here's another example of a research conducted by the University of Waterloo and Duke University from 2011. In this piece of research, they examined more than 4,000 recent job ads. And after finding gender-based wording differences in employment postings, the team used these differences to create masculine and feminine job adverts for identical positions, and then asked people to rate the jobs. When feminine language was used to instead describe the same role, women were more attracted to the job description, while the research showed that both men and women showed a preference for certain job description matching their gender. This affected women more strongly than their male counterparts. Interestingly, what the researchers discovered was that none of the participants in the study recognized the use of language and the effect it had on their interest in the job adverts. What we do know is emphasis on masculine traits and technical skills can make women believe that they'll not fit the job role. Of course, women are analytic, competitive, and confident, but they're less likely to view themselves in these terms than men and are therefore less likely to apply. Women are unlikely to apply for a job unless they meet all of the person spec requirement, and this is based on research conducted by Hewlett and Packard. And men don't seem to be affected by that, and the use of more neutral and feminine coded words in job descriptions. So what we know, emphasis on masculine traits and technical skills can make women believe they'll not fit the job role. And as we said, women are analytic and competitive, but they're less likely to view themselves. Women are unlikely to apply for a job if they don't meet all the person specs, and men are not affected by these coded words in job descriptions. Writing inclusive job descriptions. Recruitment starts with the defining the scope of the role and writing the job description. And there are some golden rules for it. It's really important because we know that the wording and content of job descriptions can influence the number of applicants and diversity of profiles the organization receives. So it can put some of the candidates off for applying, and therefore is a crucial step in the recruitment process. There are a few things you can do to ensure your job description is inclusive and attractive to a wide range of candidates. Consider who the advert is aimed at. Your target audience are students. So, what does this mean? For example, if they're students, what does this mean when thinking about the level of experience, flexibility required around the studies? Why are they doing the particular job with you or placement? And what are they wanting to get out of that experience? When you read the job description over, who are you picturing? What do they look like? If you don't picture a student, this may indicate that you have some more work to be doing on the job description. Consider how the advert comes across. What do you want the candidate to see when they look at your advert? How do you pitch your company? And what do students need to know to be interested in working for your company? Which information do you provide? What may be missing? You could ask someone to review it, as it may not be easy for you to take a step back and see what adjustments need to be made. You also want to consider the tone of your job description. Is the tone friendly? Is it engaging? Or is it motivating? Consider what the advert is saying. You want to provide students with relevant information to generate interest, but you don't want to overwhelm them either. For instance, ensure the list of criteria is short and stick to only essential requirements. When you look at the essential criteria, ensure none of them can be learned on the job, and ask yourself if the requirements are if they're realistic and based on your audience. Students, in that case, ensure that the language is used is clear and comprehensive to everyone. This means avoiding using business or technical jargon as much as possible. Check whether the advert answers the candidate's questions. There are a few things you want to ensure appear on the job advert so the potential candidates can assess if this is the right opportunity for them. Learning outcomes, projects they'll be working on, the level and type of support available to them, and if there are opportunities beyond the placement or that job, the working pattern, locations, salary, and benefits. You need to consider that some people may have caring responsibilities or personal circumstances you're not aware of. So, providing all this information is key. Travel requirements, if any, flexible working options, equipments provided, etc. Remove gendered language from the job description. Gendered language refers to the use of words and phrases that reinforce societal distinctions between genders, typically categorizing individuals as either masculine or feminine. This can include the use of masculine and feminine pronouns or gendered job titles, for example, but it can also include the association we make with what we see as masculine or feminine characteristics. Academic research by the University of Waterloo and Duke University defined a series of words that socially, culturally, and historically carry a stereotypical weight towards a particular gender. The researchers found that language used in job recruitment materials can maintain gender inequality in traditionally male dominated occupations. So, in practice, the fundamentals always include a salary range. This helps candidates assess whether the salary is suitable for the circumstances. Explain what your company does, as well as the contribution successful applicants will be able to see once they join your organization. Include information about your flexible or remote working policy. This is key to widening your talent pool. Talk about career development opportunities. This is particularly important for SMEs who may not be able to compete with the wages of large organizations. Don't forget the how to apply section. Explain the process what is expected from candidates. Include a contact detail. Providing a contact can encourage potential applicants to contact the employer if they have a question rather than move on to the next role and not apply. So here are some quick examples of the impact of not demonstrating or not creating inclusive job descriptions. These are extracted from different studies on LinkedIn. So the first is around the impact on perception of a candidate's eligibility and interest in a particular job. And this study indicates that 91% of the respondents said that seeing the salary range on a job post affects or impacts their decision to apply for the job. This study looks at, again, the different elements of job description that can be helpful on making a decision on whether one wants to apply or not. And again, salary range and responsibility of the role are right up there, which can influence candidates' decisions to apply for the job. So what you need to be mindful of, review your list of essential criteria. Evidence shows that women will apply when they only meet 100%, as discussed earlier. Ensure you value transferable skills and demonstrate that this is particularly true for STEM positions. Remove gendered language from your job description. There is evidence again on women being put off from masculine coded words, and ensure your job description does not raise more questions than it answers. How you pitch yourself matters as well as an organization. So use a friendly and engaging tone. The more legible and readable your job description, higher the application rates. Adjust the content and tone to your audience. Always use plain language. Avoid using acronyms. And job descriptions should be considered a key component of your branding strategy, which again is very essential for SMEs to stand out in a competitive job market. These are some of the common mistakes made by employers. Mentioning the number of years in a job description. This can exclude people who've taken a career break or come from from a different industry or background. Instead, focus on the skills required for the job. Having a diversity statement to look good, but not having an inclusive culture, including inclusive recruitment processes in place. Unrealistic expectations for the job or level of seniority. Asking students doing an internship to have leadership skills or previous work experience would be an example of that. Here are a few examples to remove gendered language from your job description. Ambitious can be replaced with forward thinking, growth mindset, assertive with motivated, positive, competitive with forward thinking, growth mindset, driven with motivated, enthusiastic. Now, these are commonly used words and phrases which can reinforce unhelpful stereotypes and again exclude certain groups from applying for the roles. Now, what the words I've listed above, like competitive, ambitious, confident, and even ninja, are common words used in tech job description, but research tells that these are masculine coded, and job descriptions loaded with masculine words will put women off. Changing the words you're already using can make a significant difference on how your job advert and company is being perceived by potential candidates. Widening your reach. Well, if you only ever fish in the same pond, then you only ever will catch the same fish. So salary is not the key consideration when you're looking, for candidates looking for a job. Career progression is also important to attract talent, and people want to make an impact at work. And so for some candidates, flexible working policies are attractive. So consider alternative ways of drawing in people where you don't use salary as the only benchmarking criteria. These are examples of some of the top recruitment channels as based on the research done. The link to the research is in the bottom of the slide. Online job boards, consider both traditional as well as diversity ones. Company corporate website, low cost because this is your own branding. Your employee referrals, this is one of the most efficient recruitment channels because it's word of mouth. Social media can be far reaching and low cost. Events, making your presence felt through hiring and industry events and meet a lot of people within the sector or looking to kind of get jobs in the sector. Trade journals, depending on your industry, and looking at candidate rediscoveries, looking at past candidates and how, if you've, depending on your GDPR requirements, if you have information on some of the candidates that have applied in the past and have not made it, reaching out to them again. Email campaigns through newsletters and through newsletters of partner organizations as well, and internal recruitment. Remember, there's always existing employees who may be interested in some of the new rules that are being introduced. Reviewing application and scoring candidates. So what strategies can we use to reduce unconscious bias when reviewing applications? There's three things that can be done. First is have standard processes, make your recruitment process becomes anonymous, and providing training to managers and recruiters involved in the hiring process. The goal is to increase the number of applicants to get through to the next process, ensure that you are increasing the diversity of the talent pool, also making sure that your fair and better decisions are being made when hiring. So what is anonymous recruitment? Anonymous job applications do not include any information about an applicant's status as a member of a minority or other disadvantaged group in the written application documents that recruiters use when deciding whom to invite for a job interview. Anonymous procedures have long been used in other areas. For example, scientists have long used double-blind and single-blind procedures in experimental research studies. Blind auditions for symphony orchestras have demonstrated a stronger impact on gender composition. These experiences show that it is generally possible to decide or select anonymously to achieve the intended outcomes. So there are pros and cons. The pros are anonymous job applications can prevent discrimination in the initial stage of the recruitment. Anonymous job applications signal a strong employee commitment to focus solely on skills and qualifications. Standardized anonymous job application forms are an efficient implementation method, and job applicant comparability may increase with the use of anonymous job applications. The cons are anonymous job applications do not reduce unconscious bias or discrimination later in the hiring process. Suboptimal implementation of anonymous job application procedures can be costly, time consuming, and error prone. Context specific information may be interpreted disadvantageously if the candidate's identity is unknown. So, for example, if it's a standardized process, it would be difficult for the candidate to justify career break or lack of experience in that particular sector or labor market. So these are examples of what actions organizations can take to anonymize the recruitment process. And the first is to uh, make sure that the basics are the CV when it goes to the recruitment panel is scrubbed off the basics like names, photos, addresses, date of birth, and gender. And the other is the next stage is to look at actually testing the candidates for the skills. In the UK, we know around 80% of Oxbridge offers go to students from the top two socioeconomic groups, and those with 10 top universities and private schools tend to bag the top jobs and therefore the most impressive looking experience. And how would you switch to skill testing? You would do that through predictive validity, which helps you assess future performance. There are a host of tools out there to help predictive validity of assessments. And it basically refers to the ability of a test or other measurement to predict a future outcome. Here, an outcome can be behavior, performance, or even a disease. So this method has been originally used in the medical sciences, but has been is quite an accurate, effective method of establishing skills and competencies and future predicting them. So the importance of standardizing these processes is because it's providing consistency to ensure that each candidate is being evaluated on the basis of the same criteria, and makes the process more consistent and repetitive and a fair process. It also makes the process objective because implementing objective measures of a candidate's skills and knowledge, and this helps eliminate any potential biases or personal opinions that may impact the hiring decision. It also improves hiring outcomes by a consistent approach where organizations can ensure they're hiring the best candidate for the job, and it's time saving. Rather than spending time developing a new process for each job opening, a standardized process can be used repeatedly, making the recruitment process more efficient. It also improves efficiency for people involved in the recruitment process. The interview experience is a key stage of the recruitment process. And it's to please remember that it's a key stage not just for the candidate, but also for the organization. So for the candidate, it's an opportunity for the organization to evaluate their work experience, assess their skills, and identify if the person will fit well within the organization. And for the organization, it's an opportunity to introduce a candidate to the company, define the position expectations, and also give first impression of the company's culture. So what are the common mistakes employers are likely to make at this stage? Not having a standardized process, not aligning the job description and key criteria with the scoring grid and question used to assess candidates, being unclear on what is expected from candidates, not having the right type of interviews tasks for the job, and communicating poorly with the candidates. So here's an opportunity for you to review your own practices, and we can look at this template, take this away and work on it later as well. So looking at the first column, which is about writing the job description, do you use inclusive language in your recruitment materials? Are you aware of the best practices when drafting job specs? What is the tone of your job description? Is the job description clear and written in plain language? Is the salary mentioned? Looking at the second column, which is about widening the pool of applicants, where do you promote your roles? Do you know where your target audience is? How long do you advertise your role? What level of support do you provide to the job applicants? And the third column is about selecting the right person for the job. Again, for the panel, do you have a standardized and anonymized process? Do you have the same set of questions for all candidates? What does your interview panel look like? Are people involved in the recruitment process trained on the following, which is unconscious bias, inclusive language, and recruitment practices? So, what are the benefits of implementing an inclusive recruitment strategy? It reduces unconscious bias in the recruitment process. It widens your talent pool. It sends the right signal to the job applicants. It demonstrates your commitment to ED&I. It reflects on your current practices. It identifies areas for improvement, and it sets a positive environment from the start. To conclude, diversity does not mean inclusion. Organizations need to consider the company's culture to ensure